I can see some people starting to drop in. Just to let you know, those that have jumped on early, it's just time to prep and make sure the technology is working as it needs to be. I'm not sure if some of you are. I went to join a meeting yesterday where there's a few hundred people on the meeting, and Google decided to just have a bit of a hissy fit. Couldn't access any of my Google services, Gmail, anything. So that was interesting. I don't think we're seeing the same today. It looks like we're okay. But again, we're going to promptly start at 2 o'clock. So depending on what who's in, who's out at that point, we're going to crack on anyway. So I'll just keep an eye on things and make sure that things are clicking through. I think, again, Claire's just put a message into the chat. So again, the general format for today is that Claire from Creations is helping to facilitate and host the meeting, and is keeping an eye on all the mechanics behind the scenes, so I can just concentrate on doing the content and the webinar itself. So when 2 o'clock kicks in, we'll get started and we'll make a move through the slides. Well, I've got that bang on 2 o'clock, so I'll get started now. So thank you all. Thank you for coming along. The idea today is that I'm going to help to hopefully give you a bit of information about how you can create your own business plan and how you can bring that together into your own world and use it for your own purposes. Just a little bit of the intro to the agenda itself. I'll have a bit of an intro to me, my background, that sort of thing. Just a few minutes on that one. And then again, what a good plan might look like, how that works for some people. And then some of those pitfalls about things or why people get stuck. So again, it's only a quick fly through those parts, just to make sure that we can see some of the context around a good plan and what it might look like for you. And then we'll talk about 20 minutes or so, just walking through a template. So that's the meat and bones of this webinar, is to try and give you that information to help you to get through to creating the plan for yourself. So we've got just over 30 minutes of content. We've allocated an hour in total, should we require it? Don't think so. The practice is so far up an hour and 35 minutes, so it should be okay. And then again, a little bit of Q&A. There have been some preloaded ones that have been sent to us in advance of this for people that have registered but can't make it. So again, we'll have a bit of Q&A at the end. If you've got anything to ask, then feel free, stick it into the Q&A section or the chat, and Claire will pick that up and monitor it, and I'll take all those questions at the end rather than stopping partway through. So again, a little bit about the intro then. So me, myself, I'm a formerly IT guy, banker guy from London. Well, not from London, from Kent originally, but I worked in London for 10 years. And I really enjoyed and got involved in some of the strategic side of things. I guess everybody is involved in business strategy at some point. You're either a recipient of it, you're in it, or in my case, I started to then get onto the purposes of starting to develop and then implement certain initiatives to help with the strategy involved in business. And again, that was what I really enjoyed. Those businesses that really got it and understood what good strategy looked like and how to actually implement them really, really well. They were the places that I loved to work in. So that's what sort of led me into this path of trying to help people to do that for their own businesses. Again, I love keeping things simple. My idea here is that I want to make this as simple for you to understand, to take it away and implement it into your own business. I don't want to overcomplicate things, but sometimes I get it wrong. And some people aren't necessarily at the same level as I'm expecting or as I understand them to be. So if it is something you're not sure what I'm talking about, it isn't clear, then please feel free to get in touch and I'll help to explain it in a way that works for you. Again, I like to start at the end. So I always like to think, whenever I'm working on something, I like to think at the end, put the end in mind and then come backwards and work back from there. And for this one, for this content here, the idea is I want to give you not just a business plan, but I want to give you some way of enabling yourself to measure yourselves so that you can succeed. Again, a plan is a way of doing that. But the point here is that a business plan should be the thing that helps you to measure where you're going, what you're doing, to give you that chance to succeed in your own business. So we move then on to, I'm just checking with Tommy again. So we move on then to again, why do you need a plan? What's the point of having a plan? So the simple answer is you don't. It seems a bit a silly statement to make there, but you don't need a plan if, again, the picture to the right here, if all you're going to do with that plan is just put it into a drawer. I mean, I've been in corporate environments before where I've had a really fantastic set of training. You go on a day out or have a workshop, something that works for the day, it's really good knowledge. You get back to your desk and you sit there and you put it in the drawer, you do nothing with it. And similarly, I've had other ones where I went on a week-long training process for Prince 2 training. I went away from my family down in Worcester for a week. I spent a week away with them, with my old company, and got back to the office. I thought, you know what, I wasn't really too sure on this whole Prince 2 stuff beforehand, but I really liked it and got on with it. And I found that there were ways that I can make that work in that business and things I could do differently. but was then just cut, so don't worry about doing that. We're not going to do it like that. We just wanted you to have the qualification. So again, I don't want you to take this away and do nothing with it. The whole point here is if you're going to create a plan, it needs to be something that you're going to use and use quite regularly. So what does that actual plan look like? So again, a map on the right here is a really key point I'm going to link through for the whole of this webinar, really. It's a map. It's a destination, and that's the idea. It should be something that sets you a destination. It should be something that you're going to try and achieve at the end game. This is where I want to be. And that's the idea behind everything that you come to. But then you start to think about that from a different perspective in terms of different types of mapping software that you might get even. So which devices do you use, and what way do you use your maps? It can quite easily be something changes, something happens during the journey that means you have to go in a different direction. That's okay. You're still going to get to that destination. The idea is it helps to steer you, but it isn't going to be so fixed and rigid that you can't do anything with it. Again, with this map in place and you've got something there, again, all navigation systems, they'll give you an estimated time of arrival, they'll give you journey time, all those sorts of things. This is your measurement. This is then how you start to measure that you're actually going to get to where you want to get to, rather than just not aimlessly, but you're going on a path, on a journey, but you've not got any checkpoints in. And sometimes it's about then that's celebrating that success and celebrating where you've got to. And it's really important that you're able to do that. The last part around this one is, again, what a good plan might look like for you is that it is actually yours. It shouldn't be a copy and paste job. You shouldn't just be getting someone saying to you, this is what you need to do in your business. The idea is here that you need to work with someone or work with your team to make sure that you can figure out a way of creating a plan that works for you. It needs to be honest. It needs to come from your heart. It needs to come from inside of your business to make sure that you're going to deliver on this because you want to. It's your vested interest. It needs to obviously push you outside of your comfort zone a little bit, because if you just carry on doing what you always do, then you're always going to get what you always done. There's no real initiative or incentive for you to push on further. It should push you a little bit outside of your comfort zone, but it should be everything that you want to achieve rather than feeling like someone's telling you to do it. So the next part I want to move into is around the why people are getting stuck. And again, nice pertinent picture here of some snow that we might be getting the weekend apparently. So again, why do people get stuck? It's again that draw. So some people would look at it and go, yeah, this is a great idea. I really need a business plan. I really need to take my business forward. Let's do it. Let's get involved and let's create one. And in fact, that's a client that I've just re-engaged with. That's what happened to them. They took the business plan, they did the workshop for a day, walked away and then didn't do anything with it. So 12 months later, we started working again because they didn't do anything with it. They just left it and didn't do anything with it at all. So then the next part of it is the wheels might fall off a little bit. And again, you think big, you think of these great ideas, but then things happen. Again, we might have a slight example we can use here, COVID. That came in, and that's the opportunity for the wheels to fall off and for people to ignore things and just go back to what they've always done and just not take any forward progress. And in fact, again, that's another client that I actually lost this year. That's what happened to them. The guy who was the CEO, the guy who was at the top of the tree, he was there really, he was the person that did everything. And everyone just fell around him. He just managed tasks, give out tasks to people, and that was it. He did everything. When we started to work, it was clear that was the case, and his team were getting frustrated because, but we can do some of this stuff. We can take this responsibility from you, delegate it to us. And over time, he's starting to allow himself to let go of the vine and to allow some people to take the tasks for him. As soon as COVID kicked in, that was it. Barriers back up again, straight back to do what he always done. Everyone got furloughed, and he just carried on working really, really hard. So it's just normal to go back to the thing. When something goes wrong, it's just reverting back to what you always did. So again, if you can avoid that, then don't do that. Then there's onto your personal ability. So different people have got different abilities in different ways, and it's not normal that people will be able to think in all angles for this. So when you look at a business plan, there needs to be that near future, so the here and now and how things are going to happen versus the longer, so 3, 5, 10, whichever you want to put in place. 3, 5 and 10, that's a long way away. Some people are really good at saying, right, I know that next year I want to be there, but then they can't really think much further than that. They don't allow themselves. In fact, again, another client of mine said, right, I really want to be here, but I didn't want to commit. Before we started working, after we started working, we created the plan. She said, you know what, I really wanted to do this stuff, but I just didn't want to commit it to anybody. I'm too scared because 10 years away is a really, really long way. And I feel a bit like I'm reaching too far. So some people are just scared of actually committing to what that is. But then they might have that. They might say, actually, in 10 years, I want to be all the way over there. I know what I want in my business. It's a long way away, and that's the future. But I'm really not sure how to get there. So again, personal abilities will impact you in different ways in knowing what you can do. On top of that, there's that whole commitment side of things. And when I talk about commitment, it's a strong word there, is the accountability side of things. And commitment is, you can commit to a plan and say, this is the plan, this is what I want, this is where I want to go. But then actually having the ability to, or not the ability, the commitment saying, right, I'm going to keep on going no matter what happens. You need that accountability. Someone's got to be there to help you and hold you accountable to say, look, I know you didn't do the thing you wanted to do, but how do you make that push forward? How do you take the next step to the next place? So again, that's a lot of that. Why people get stuck, a bit of the framework, not framework, a little bit of the background as to why people want to create plans, how things go wrong for people. So we'll now move on to the sort of the meat and bones, if you like, what we're going to do next to help you to, how we actually make this happen for you and how you can put your own plan in place. So what I've got here is the framework side of things. This is around the, in the networking that I've done and the systems that I've come across in the last 18 months, 2 years or so, these are the ones that keep coming up time and again. There's the Entrepreneurial Operating System, or EOS as it's called. That's a system that I'm quite closely affiliated to. I really like that system, but it tends to work for those really larger businesses. It's not necessarily ideal for the smaller business because it can be quite a costly thing to implement, but it is a really fantastic system. Feel free to go and have a look at it. But again, there's the action coach side of things. I've seen a lot of those guys that are around. And then you've got your independents. And again, I classify myself as an independent. I work in isolation. I work with my own system. I don't have a different system that I lean on. But with each of those, there'll be a framework. There'll be some way to help you to build a business plan. And there needs to be something there that you can relate to, that you can link to. And again, we come back to that analogy of the sat navs. So again, think about that. There are obviously how many in the market? There are tons. There's Garmin, there's TomTom. Obviously, Google is starting to get into that market, and you can have Google devices in your phone that will allow you to use Android Drive. But BMW, Mercedes, all the systems, they've all got their own ways of operating. So if you think about your business plan again, or your framework for the whole of your business, if you're not just talking about your business plan, you need to find the one that will resonate with you, that will work for you, that's best for you. Don't try and cherry pick bits of each one, because then you start to get yourself tripping over different parts. But if you can find one that works really well for you, that's how you're going to make a step forward. But ultimately, with each of these and with every single framework that you look at, none of them will be any good unless you've got the right content. So we're going to talk about that in a moment. We'll come on to the content and talk about how you can potentially make that work for you. Because without the right content, it's great to have a system, but it's no good if you're not using it properly and you don't know how to use it. So we'll talk about mine. Obviously, this is my framework, or my business plan, which is part of my framework that I use. And again, feel free. This is available. Contact me. I can give a copy of this. You can take it away and use it in your own business. But again, this is an example of mine. There are others around. If you would like to use something different, then feel free to do that also. But I want to take the time now just to explain what this is all about, what each box does, and why they will be on there. For me, the whole point behind this WAWG chart, as it's called, where are we going, is the acronym, which again, I'm a little bit disappointed with myself because I like to keep things simple. And the WAWG chart actually meant something a lot more complicated until it was my accountability partner who told me that's too complicated to make it simpler. So it can't always be the experts, but we try. So the WAWG chart is one page. The plan here is that you've got one page for a business plan. Let's not complicate it. I've got multiple pages in different places. The business plan is just on one place. So we'll come on to now the different sections of this. I'm going to break it down. Again, the slides aren't necessarily particularly pretty because we're just going to break it down, crop it up, and show you each of those sections a bit at a time. So the first of this on the left-hand side is, again, we start here and we start with the end in mind. Again, we talk about those things that are further away. The first bit is the values. And again, it's that whole piece around, these are the values that are for you, for your business. So again, if you're a solopreneur, it's what are core values? What are things that you stand for? What do you hold dear to you? How do you want to work? Is it the openness and the honesty that works for you? Is it something, if you're a really, really highly technical person, it might be that you value accuracy. Similarly, those medical and science labs will need people that have got values of that accuracy and the really strong eye for detail. So different people have different values. Of course, some of these will share across different businesses, but making sure that you've got the right ones that are right for you is perfect. Also, from a solopreneur's perspective, if you do that and you've got the values, it helps you to select clients and it helps clients to select you. But on a larger business, it then helps you to attract the right recruitment, or to create the right recruitment, to attract the right candidates into your business, and then helps you also to let go of the ones that aren't necessarily the right fit for your business. Also, you've then got the what you do. So again, the idea is it needs to be really, really simple. A couple of sentences, what you do, and then why you're the best at it. And again, that's the longer term thing in terms of your marketing plan. Then it starts to shape up. Okay, it's simple. Again, marketing plans can be huge. I've got someone actually sent me a message in LinkedIn just today, and their strategy for trying to win business from me was 10 pages long, which is a bit too much for me. A few lines here around, right, you need to just tell people, and again, we pitch to people, what do you do and why are you the best at it? And then underneath, it comes down to that, who for? Who is that for? Where are they based? What you're going to give them and what your guarantee might be. So again, that starts to talk about the ideal client side of things. There are tons of resources out there that start to talk to you about ideal clients, the ideal client avatar, that sort of thing. All of this is there. It's perfect because it's the marketing plan, and it is something that you need to use. But the idea is here again, trying to keep it really, really simple onto your page, because then when you start to use the rest of the plan, it then starts to tell you who you should be talking to. The last part on this side, as you can see here, is the 10 years, but I'm going to just basically just call that out perfectly on its own, not perfectly. It's up to you whether you think it was perfect or not. I think it was all right, but 10 years time, this is one line there, and it needs to be, again, it's a very simple statement. And I want to focus on this one specifically because, again, this is starting 10 years away. And just have a moment, just think, it's December 2020 now, and for me, that feels like that feels like it's in the future still. But in 10 years time, it's 2030. And for some of us, we're either going to be 10 years into our business journey and we're going to want to be certain places, or the other part of it is you could be retired, or you could be looking at some other way out of your business that you're just sitting with a residual income. 10 years is a long way away, but it needs to be thought about. And then it helps to drive the mind and it gears the rest of your plan towards what you want to be in that 10 years time. And again, the reason for having this here is, and it needs to be short and simple. The whole point of that box being smaller is it needs to be short and simple, because a powerful statement that's written correctly will really, really work for you. Something like the NASA example that goes, this is in many, many textbooks, but the NASA example of an employee sweeping the floor with a broom, and someone says to him, "What is it that you're doing?" And he says, "I'm putting a man on the moon." And that was NASA's initiative right back in the days. It was, we want to put a man on the moon. This is what we're doing. Every single employee was vested into that. And similarly, Nike's over the years have some brilliant ones. And right now, if you go and look for them on their website for their I think they call it their, I can't remember now. They call it their vision statement. I think it's mission statement. There we go. Nike says at the moment, bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete. There's an asterisk there, in the world. So again, they're trying to say that we want to bring innovation to every athlete. And they actually, well, hang on, am I an athlete? And the asterisk says, if you have a body, you're an athlete. So again, it's trying to be really short and simple statement. They've then elaborated slightly, but then behind it, it carousels around. There's Caster Semenya, there's someone who's a Paralympian. They've got all different types of pictures, body shapes, sizes, colors. They're all on there. So they're really, really strong with their messaging. And again, I recommend that you do a similar sort of thing for your business, to have a really strong statement about where you want to be. So next we go on to 3 years. So again, 10 years to 3 is a big jump. It's 7 years. But 3 years time is where you start thinking about things really, really, not really granular, but in a more granular way. This is where you start to think about, okay, in the date in 3 years time, 2023, that's closer. I can see that. It makes more sense. But then you start to put metrics in there. The two that are obvious, profit and turnover, are those that you can start to record, but you might have other metrics. You might have 3 staff at the moment, you want 5. You might have 10 staff at the moment, you want 20. Those sorts of things you can start to put in there. But also on the 3-year side of things, you need to start thinking about the things where it's like painting a picture. It's like trying to close your eyes and drawing something out. Say, okay, I get this now. This is what it's going to look like. It could be, again, you could be into a new premises with a space for lots of people. It could be that you've decided that you want to invest in a Starbucks or a Costa franchise inside your own building, better catering, that sort of thing, better facilities. There could be lots of different things, but it's to try and paint that picture up of what's going on. It could be that you've got really bad technology that's working okay, but it's not going to cope much longer. You need to invest in that. Telephone systems, that sort of thing. So again, 3 years should be far enough away that it's stuff that needs to be done, but it's just drawing that picture of what the future vision looks like, or the future version of a business looks like, without taking the jump all the way to 10 and having nothing in between. When you then got into the 3 years, you then come back to the next year. So with the next year, this is again where you start to think about putting things in place for 12 months time. And then you start thinking now, so December 2021 is not very far away. And again, the whole of the COVID situation this year, it's been a really, really interesting year. Things have still happened, business is still taking place, but there are so many drastic changes from this year to last. But then at the same time, this year to next, what is going to happen? There's going to be so much that could happen. Let's make sure that you've written stuff down in here that's relevant and is right for you. Where do you want your business to be? There's going to be a lot going on in the world. So making sure that you've got in here what you want to happen in your business is the way that you can control what happens in your world. Again, it's that whole control the controllables piece. Don't try and control COVID. Don't try and control the vaccine. Don't try and control when you can go face to face or when you can't. Making sure that you are in control of the things that you can achieve is what you need to be focusing on here. Again, the date, profit, turnover, any other metrics that you might want to have. But on top of that, when you've got the next year in place, this is where you start to be much more specific. And again, look up SMART if you've not heard of it before, SMART goal setting. Make sure that you've got things in here that are specific, they're measurable, they're attainable, they're time bound, and they're realistic. Because if you haven't got things in plan that are going to be like that for your goals, it's very, very easy to then push your way through and say, actually, I kind of did those, I kind of didn't do those. You need to make sure that you know whether you're going to achieve something or whether you're not, and it needs to be yes or no. But don't get drawn into the trap. If you haven't achieved something, don't try and slip your way through to say, okay, it's okay. I knew I didn't do it. It's okay. Just ignore it. If something didn't happen, it's okay. You can look at it, review it, assess it, and make sure you know what you're going to do differently about it. But again, 12 months away is quite a long way away. So what you need to do then is come back to it and say, right, okay, each quarter. So you're looking now at quarters at a time. You're breaking things down into chunks. And there's a strange phenomenon, and I don't know why it works, and particularly in this country, our seasons change. And when the seasons change, people behave differently. I don't know what it is, I don't know why, but it does seem to happen. When you start moving into autumn to winter, it does change. The clocks change, the clocks change in autumn, but the lights change, different things happen, the environment changes, it gets colder. There are different things that happen and you just react differently. So it's normal, there's a normal body clock, and it goes back to Stone Age times. The body clock and how things evolve over each quarter is true. But also, if you break things down into each quarter, then it makes it a lot easier to focus in on just this quarter at a time. And again, with that in mind, in terms of the quarter at a time, that's exactly what I'm going to recommend that you do here. Make sure that you only work on this quarter. If you go out as far as 12 months away and you come back to it, don't fall into the trap of saying, okay, so this quarter we're going to do this, the next quarter we're going to do this, the next quarter, the next quarter. Don't block out the whole year. You've already stated in 12 months I want to be over there. That's fine. You now need to write down what you're going to achieve in the next quarter that's going to get you almost a quarter of the way or part of the way towards that year's target. Don't sit in the first quarter and trying to do the entire year's plan. It's really, really important to make sure that you're doing just enough to make sure you're right. Because then once you've done that, you can also then make sure that you're able to launch into the second quarter, the third, still making progress towards each of those targets. But also making sure that you're only working on that stuff in that quarter means you stop getting distracted by the things around the outside. It's quite normal. Again, one of my clients really, really wanted to launch a new website. And they started doing that when the first lockdown happened. They weren't able to work. So they really wanted to launch the website within the year. They started making the progress. But it didn't happen because as soon as as soon as lockdown stopped, they were able to get back to work. So the time and energy was all around managing the processes. Processes had to change, the procedures had to change inside the clinic. There was a lot of things that had to be different, which meant that the website got put on the back burner. But still there's that niggling thing that says, I want to do it now because I've started it, but don't. Stop it, move it to one side, because this quarter is all about getting back up and running and getting that continual flow of customers coming back into the clinic again. The website needs to be done, and it will be done by the end of the year. But right now, push it to one side. Similar again, each of these things needs to be something you're going to control in that quarter only. But same as in the year ones, making sure they're smart, making sure that you've got the right things in place so that you can measure them correctly is the right way to do it. But again, don't think that you're going to get this right the first time. Each quarter, you need to sit and check and say, right, what did I actually achieve this quarter? What did I say I wanted to achieve? Have that review, making sure that you know that the next time around when you set them, you could learn from the last one and then you can move on. Because then you've got opportunities. You've got the first quarter, the second quarter, and the third quarter before we get to the annual. So you've got 3 opportunities at goal setting here to make sure that you're going to get to a flow where you can say, right, I know what I'm doing now. And then by the time you get to the end of your year, you then move on and you go to the next, to go to your second year, which then takes you again. You then 2/3 of the way through to that 3-year plan. So that's how the sort of thing, it all fits together and all works together. Now, the last part of the chart that I showed you is here. It's the issues piece. Now, the issues piece is interesting that it's on the business plan, because I've got a whole set here about how you manage issues, prioritization, that side of things. That happens as a different part of the process in terms of when you're working on issues. But having issues as a part of the business plan, why would you do that? But the point here is you're making a conscious effort to ignore certain issues, which sounds kind of counterintuitive. But when you go through this plan and you're setting up your business plan, the idea is that you look at certain issues and say, actually, these issues are causing me an issue. Of course, they're issues. The issues are causing me a problem, so I need to resolve them. And some of them you'll take steps and say, right, I know that I want that issue to have gone this quarter, so I'm going to put this plan in place. There are certain activities that you'll do and say, right, these things are in place to resolve that issue. But what about the rest of them? This is the idea, this is the art to having them on the business plan, to making sure that you're aware and saying, well, I've said these issues are important to my business, but they're not issues that I want to resolve right now. We're going to put them to one side, you're aware of them, you're conscious of them. And again, it's a silly one in terms of the analogy, but for me, I used to run marathons when I was a little bit carrying a little bit less timber. And the last one that I ran was, I knew that at some point, the one before, I really struggled. I got to a point where I was running, I got to 18, 19 miles, and I had a mental breakdown and stopped and started doing a bit of walking. And that really upset me, because I knew that I'd walked. And for me, that was a failure, which is silly, because I still got a really good time compared to the one before, but I really felt like I failed because I walked. So the preparation for me was then to say, look, you know what? I'm going to make sure that I'm aware this is going to happen. So I took them in. When the bad stuff came in, all the jujus came in and said, look, I'm sorry, but this is no. You can't do this anymore. Your body's telling you to stop. You need to take it. I just did a simple thing. I'm aware of that. Thank you very much. I'll happily accept that later on when I finish, but not now, thank you. So I'm always consciously processing in my head to say, I'm aware of that, thanks, but not now. And that's what you're doing here. You're taking the issues in. There are issues you need to resolve, but it's not something that's going to stop you today. You can still achieve a quarter, you can still achieve those things, and you can still move on and do the next things. So again, that was the sort of, again, with the clients that I had this year, that was some of the things we found when we were working through issues. COVID was cited as being an issue. And again, I knocked that on the head quite quickly and said, no, the issue isn't COVID, because that's just something that's going on in the world. The issue is something completely different, because the issue is you can't get out and see your clients. That's the sort of thing we're talking about there. The issue needs to be something that you're aware of, that you can control. So now I'm going to move on to, I've actually spun through that quite a lot quicker than I thought I was going to. So I'll now come on to summarising that. And again, we're now talking about what you need to be doing. So the takeaways for me, again, the request for you all is just two very simple things that I'd like to take away. I would recommend that you create a plan. Again, I've given you there the example of the template that I use, and I would absolutely share that with anybody who wants to see it. More than happy to, but don't think that's the only one. There are more. Feel free, again, this is the anti-sell on me, to take any plan that you like. However, if you do have a plan, make sure that you're putting the right content in it. That's where I can help. That's the sort of thing I can do. I can help you to actually plan through help you to create your business plan, to help you to work it together and make that something that's right for you. It's not my plan, it's yours. The idea is there that I can help you to do that one. And the next thing, again, whatever plan that you do create, however you do it, whether it's with me or somebody else or using a different plan entirely, make sure you've got that accountability partner in there. It's absolutely massive that you've got someone there that can hold you accountable. Now, what's the good thing about this is, not the good thing, but the other part about this is, you need to pick the right accountability partner. So even for myself, I've got an accountability partner, but I was able to, I guess, fudge things slightly because I know the system, I know the game, it's my tools. Who can call me out because it's mine? Well, I realized that I was doing some of that, and I called it out as an issue on my own chart. I said to my accountability partner, you know what, look, I'm making mistakes here. I shouldn't be doing these things. I should be doing this instead. And I'm bringing it to you, to be honest. And that's now given my accountability partner the beating stick to give me a beating, which is not always pleasant, but it needs to happen. Sometimes it's that creating that open loop and dialogue to make sure that you're calling things out. Your accountability partner needs to be able to challenge you in the right way to make sure that they know that they can press things. And again, that's what I'll do. That's what a good accountability partner will do, is make sure that you're pressed in the right way and to challenge you the right way. Just to make sure, it's almost like a dip test to make sure, are you sure these are the right things? Not because I think they're wrong, but it's making sure that you can make sure that you're happy and really happy. And sometimes, again, challenging in that way is the right thing to do to make sure that you're not missing something. It could be, actually, I'm doing this in this way, but if I did it that way, it's going to be quicker and cost me less money. So again, sometimes it's worth bouncing things around and having that accountability partner to help you to work things through. So with that in mind, that takes me to the end of the content, actually. So I'm going to take some Q&A. As there are some preloaded ones anyway. I've got another webinar that's coming on in January. It's the 20th of January. So feel free, the QR code on the right there. And you can just, if you've got you can scan your phone, you've got Google Lens, I don't know what the Apple equivalent is, but you can get your lens out and you can actually book directly onto that one on Eventbrite. I've just created or published it today. It's dealing with work-related stress. Now, that's what I'm actually collaborating with as well. I've got an HR partner or a HR consultant and a health and safety consultant, and we're going to work together on that one. The three of us will be bringing you hopefully some really good content around health and safety. The HSE, so the Health and Safety Executive, they've actually brought out some really good documentation around work-related stress. I think they see that there's going to be a lot of that happening next year. So we're going to have 3 different angles at that one next time round. The other 2 QR codes on there, if you're not connected with me on LinkedIn already and you'd like to, the middle code there will take you to LinkedIn to connect with me. And similarly, Facebook, my Line the Arrows page is on there, and that's the other QR code. If you want the old school method of telephone or email, then both of those are there available for you as well. So feel free to get in touch. As I've said, anybody who would like a copy of the documentation, the copy of that chart, feel free, ping me a message, either again, WhatsApp me, email me, whichever you like, and I'll make sure you can get a copy to use for yourselves. It's also available on Trello. I can get you a Trello board that I've created as an example that you can use to work with it digitally. So over to, I think, Claire. Have we got any questions or other questions that have come through?
We have indeed, Lee. We've had a really good response. We've had a couple come through on text, and we've had one that's come through on the Q&A already. So can the business plan span across different businesses, or should it be specific to the individual business as a whole?
Okay, so that would be a question that's going to be relevant to the business in particular. It's difficult to know without knowing the business itself. However, it would be normal to have, you can chop it either way. It depends on what works best for different people. If you've got very separate entities in a business, it would make sense to create completely separate plans for that business. However, if you pitch it at the right level, you could have one that covers all. It totally depends how intrinsically linked the business are, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. Another question that's come in on text was, if I'm using your tools to create my business plan, how do I know I'm putting the right things in the right places?
Okay, so that's really interesting actually. Yeah, so how to put things in the right places. That's again where you get the opportunity to have someone to review it with you and to work with someone. So again, it's not just a potential to pitch myself this one. It's very easy to put things on. I know you do it right. However, it needs to be the right thing that's challenging you. To make sure you're doing things and reviewing them every so often, to make sure you've got that every 2 or 3, 4 weeks of review, to make sure you can do those things. That's the best way to do it.
Brilliant, thank you. Another question has been, what's your tips on ways you can make sure that you stay focused on the end goals, especially when the unexpected happens, 2020 being a great example of this?
Yeah, so, okay, the idea is there, making sure that there's the plan that's been set in the first place that you can believe in. It can change. There are certain things that will happen that will change the plan. I wouldn't recommend that you constantly changing things around at all. It should be fixed as much as it can be, because the idea is that the plan needs to be something that you can drive towards. The delivery and the method of how you might do it is what might need to change. But once you've done that, it's making sure you've got that regular check-in. And again, when I work with clients, I should have probably mentioned this in the webinar actually, you can have the free tools that take away the free content. The second part is to actually spend a day, and I work with a client who wants to do this, just create it on a day or 2 days if it's a large client, and just have the plan and done. But the third option here that I offer is that once you've done the plan, we can have a check-in. It's either 2, 3, 4 weeks, just to make sure that you're always keeping track of where you're going, so that then you get to the quarter and there's no surprises of what's happened. So again, I'd recommend that you do that, whether you're working with me or somebody else, that you're just reviewing every 2 or 3 weeks, just to make sure that you're on target with things. If something then goes wrong, so again, COVID's kicked in, you just assess it and deal with it at the time to make sure that you can say, actually, because again, the clients I've had that I worked with this year, some of the things I wanted to do were a lot of it around changing the marketing strategies and changing websites, changing processes and procedures, and getting on top of things, making sure that they were doing different things, but it didn't mean they had to be face to face. So it was making sure that they knew about ways they could do things without worrying about going face to face. Hopefully that answers that one.
It does, and it kind of comes on to the next question that's come in as well, which is, as a solo entrepreneur or one-man band, can this be managed on your own easily, or do you get better results having someone else to help and guide or bounce ideas off?
Okay, yes, again, that is the thing. If you have it on your own and you do it as a solopreneur, and again, this is the trap I fell into with my own, because it's my own business, it's easy to think I can do this. But even for me, it's so much better to have someone else that's outside of your business, someone that might understand, but it is someone that's outside of your business that can help and play things back to you. It's almost like a mirror, the sounding board. It's really, really powerful having that person there to be with you. And again, I could easily tell myself, great, come with me, but it's not necessarily just about me. There are ways to do it, but having someone else there to play things back to is absolutely the best thing to be doing.
Brilliant. And that leads us on to, we've got one question in the Q&A, Lee, and we've got another question that's come in on text, actually, but they're very similar. So they are sort of, what help do you offer? And obviously, what do you charge?
Right, okay, so I've got 3 ways into working with me. The first one is the free tool stuff. So if you see tools on here, there are others I've got as well. If you're seeing any of those on the website that you like, then feel free, ping me a message, have that, it's free. The second option is, and I said the business plan itself can take some time, and it seems silly. It's just one piece of paper. How can it take so long? But when I'm working with solopreneurs or people that have got businesses with up to 3 staff in, it can take a whole day to actually fill that all out, because you're playing things back and you're constantly assessing and challenging to make sure that it's at the right level. And I find that really, really beneficial to spend the entire day doing it. When you've got larger clients where you've got sort of 15, 20, 30 people that work there, it can take 2 days to do that. Which again, 2 days for one piece of paper sounds really bizarre. But the idea is you've then got potentially a leadership team of 3 or 4 staff who have all got in an interest. and to allow the conversation to be really effective, to make sure that this is a plan that works for the business rather than being one person's view, it needs to take that much time. So that's the idea, that's the option there. Just take the business plan and then off you go. You can feel free to manage that on your own. Those generally tend to start at £349 just for the full day. Then on the other side of it, if you want to work with me on a regular basis, again, we do the similar thing. Generally speaking here, I'll ask for a commitment of 12 months because a lot of the value is in that first day. And I don't want to really give that away and say, right, okay, pay for a monthly fee and then away you go. And then depending on the client's frequency, if you want to meet online, so video calls, and you want to meet every few weeks, that can start from £99. And the idea is there you do the same thing, that you work together for a full day, first of all, to create that business plan. And then you start to work through and say, right, every few weeks we check in. And then every quarter, again, you get together for a couple of hours just to reset the quarter and go again. And that's the idea there. It is varied. So again, I generally tend to bespoke those depending on what everyone's frequencies are. Someone might want to do 2 weeks, and they might want to do it face-to-face, which is obviously going to incur more of a cost. But those are the 3 ways into working with me.
And if people are interested, do they just drop you a quick email, Lee, or do they search for
email, even WhatsApp, Facebook message, whichever is anyone's preference. I tend to like all social media forms and don't favour any. So yeah, any preference for anybody. And again, those check-ins, I have heard of other coaches that will say you can speak to me for 1 hour a month and that's it. That's what you're getting for your money. Generally speaking, that's not what I would like to do. I'm generally tend to be more available, that I can answer the phone and just check in with people at different points.
Brilliant, thank you. That's all the questions that have come in through me. If anyone has got any other questions for Lee, please just drop them in the chat or Q&A box and we'll happily answer them.
Okie dokie. Anything else come through?
Nope.
Right, with that in mind, then I'd like to just again thank everybody for coming along. It's very, very strange. I was explaining earlier on to have. I've got a massive flip chart to my left, which is a bonus because I wouldn't get that when I'm doing a face-to-face presentation to a room full of people. But it's very strange standing and staring at my laptop and presenting it out there. So again, any feedback, if anyone wants to send anything to me and say, look, I would prefer you to cover this or that, if there's any other topics or anything else that anyone would like me to cover, or again, if you want any more information about what I can help you with, then please feel free to get in touch. Thank you, everybody, for participating.